Namaskar and good morning to all. Good morning to everyone present here. Today, it's our second day of the International Conference on Northeast India, a crossroad for Asian civilizations. It's welcome to our third academic session, which is the first session today morning. With us in this session, we have Dr. Seema Baawa from Department of History, University of Delhi. I welcome you, ma'am, for chairing this session. Uh, Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We have four speakers in this session: Dr. Jonali Devi, Dr. Sangeeta Gogoi, Dr. Sharma, and Dr. Dwipen Bezbaruah. Uh, I now request Madam Speaker, Madam Chairperson, Dr. Seema Baawa, ma'am, to kindly begin the session. Thank you, ma'am.
I think it's a very important conference that's happening because till now Gandhar has been considered to be the center of cross-cultural exchanges and cross-culturality, while equally important and significant was Northeast India and the kind of interaction it was having with Mon Khmer and other civilization, Pagan, Burma especially, and Siam. So, just to highlight how this becomes a center and a focus of cross-culturality is very important. And I think something that's going to come across in the sessions that we are going to have today, because I feel that all the speakers are going to be highlighting issues which have to do with sources, and sources which tell us about history and anthropology of this region. And since a lot of it is not in the written form, I think many speakers, at least two that I can see, are going to be highlighting issues related to this unwritten records that we have. And that is so important to actually understanding this. So I'm going to start with inviting our first speaker, Dr. Jonali Devi. She is a professor in the Department of Anthropology in the Cotton University, and she's going to be speaking on traditional knowledge, the intangible cultural heritage of Northeast, to start us off. And I think we are all looking forward to the session. Ma'am, you know that you have 20 minutes or so, and then we'll take the questions at the end, if any. So I invite Dr. Jonali Devi to please give her presentation so that we can, and I will of course be making notes.
Thank you, madam, and good morning. It is my pleasure to be here, and thank you, Heritage Society, Anand Ashutosh Dwivedi, and Dr. D.P. Fakulty, Director of Archaeology, for their invitation to participate this international conference on a very important cause, that is World Heritage Week. And naturally, I have selected a topic on intangible heritage of Northeast India with special focus to traditional knowledge. So now I will share my screen. Is it visible, madam? My PowerPoint, is it visible, madam? Shall I start?
It's not visible. To share the screen, there is a share screen option in the bottom of the screen. You can click on share screen.
Yes, I did it.
And then there is a dialog box that opens up. In the dialog box, there is an option on the top, share entire screen. You can click on share entire screen, and then you will find a screen in the dialog box. You can click on that, and then you can click on share. You will be able to share that.
Okay, please give me a 1 minute. Actually, I'm not so expert in this technology, so I'll try. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it visible now?
It's not. Yeah, it's coming up. Hmm. Yeah, you can change it into slides here.
Slide share. Data network कैसे? Is it visible now? Hello?
In the slideshow form. That's all that's required. Otherwise,
Slideshow. Slideshow. Yes. Yes. Slideshow. Okay.
yeah, now we can see it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I can start now. Okay. So it is on intangible cultural heritage of Northeast India with special focus to traditional knowledge. And as all of you know that intangible heritage, the heritage which cannot be seen, which is not visible and which cannot be touched, which includes values, social values, traditions, customs, practices, aesthetics, spiritual beliefs, artistic expression, language, and then knowledge and skill. So these are part of our culture, which are considered as intangible heritage, which pass on from generation over generation. And naturally, the preservation of intangible heritage is much more difficult than tangible heritage, because first we have to identify the intangible heritage, and especially when it is in case of traditional knowledge and skills, we have to identify it, then we have to document it. So today I'm going to document some of the traditional knowledge of Northeast India. Now, what is traditional knowledge? We have little idea about traditional knowledge. The people who are close to nature, living close to nature for centuries, in order to make survival, they learn many things from the environment, from flora, fauna, and the resources available. They acquire a knowledge base, and that knowledge base is passed on from one generation to the next orally. And these are mainly the applied knowledge, and that knowledge is mainly related to some of the survival issue. And so the flora fauna they use, and the use knowledge system they pass on from one generation to the next. So by definition, here I am using two definitions. One, I'm going to present that cumulative, that is, it accumulated, little accumulation that occurred, cumulative and complex bodies of knowledge, know-how, that is skill, and it is practices, that's why it is said, and it represented, and that practice is maintained and developed by local communities who have long histories of interaction with the natural environment. That is the UNESCO definition. And there is another definition very similar to that, where it is said that the community, within community, often forming part of its cultural and spiritual identity. So it is so much attached with the community, and it becomes the cultural identity, and that identity is maintained and passed. So definitely there are some of the characteristics of traditional knowledge. So traditional is indigenous. It evolved indigenously. It is not diffused from other society. It is indigenous, original, and local communities are involved with the traditional knowledge. Secondly, it is transmitted orally from generation to generation. And while in case of representation, there are stories, songs, folklore, proverb, cultural values, beliefs, rituals, community laws, language, and agricultural practices where that knowledge system is represented. We can these are visible through such medium, and as it is the applied the practical knowledge, so related to agriculture, fisheries, health, horticulture, forestry, and of course the issues of natural management of natural resources. And there is classification of traditional knowledge made by Gopalakrishnan, and the knowledge system uh, known to society with or without documentation, and it is in constant use by the people. We are using so much of herbal plants, herbs in our day-to-day life, neem, turmeric, and in this day of corona period, many of us reuse that use of turmeric with haldi dud. We used to say that. And then besides in Assamese society, in so many other societies, they're using in a day-to-day life so much of plant varieties, and that knowledge is sometimes documented and mainly not documented, but without our knowing we are using constant, it is in constant use. Then information is well documented and available to the public and for examination and use. For example, the Ayurvedic text or the text written in palm leaf. So these are well documented already. There is Ayurveda Shastra, well developed, and we are in use of that. Then there is another kind of knowledge system, traditional system, which is limited to a particular individual or members of a family. An example I can cite you, and a few years back we have heard that many of the families from Assam, they moved to Hyderabad, and the purpose is to cure asthma, taking the asthmatic patient to Hyderabad, and there is a God family, special family, those who treated patients of asthmatic patient with some kind of fishes. Some knowledge is associated with those people, definitely. That so they are using that knowledge. I don't know how much it is valid, or that is I don't know, but some kind of knowledge is associated with that family. And then lastly, the information that is not documented or commonly not known outside small group of people and not revealed outside the group. And that is mainly the tribal knowledge, the indigenous knowledge, the people, those who live in the hills, those who live in some aloof area, they acquire knowledge and they apply their knowledge, and these are most of them are not documented and not known to the outside of their group, and which are very important knowledge. And the most frequent, and now I'll focus the application of traditional knowledge in few areas. One little area is ethnomedicine. Ethnomedicine in Northeast India, including Assam, the plains and hill peoples. Just I mentioned a little hit that so much of plant varieties are used in their day-to-day life. In Assamese terms, I have written here Manimuni, Narasingha, Musundari, black pepper, Lotaguti, Nilajibon, Morapat, Hewali flower, Tulsi. These are the common name to Assamese society. Likewise, there are so many plant trees, plants, and those who are day-to-day use, and for curing diseases like stomach problem, then headache, high pressure, and any other disorders, without going to the doctors, allopathic doctors. And there is the preventive measures people are taking with their traditional knowledge, and especially the elderly knowledge. Elderly people, they know the proportion and in which ailment, which what kind of leafy vegetables and how it will be taken. That knowledge system is mainly associated with the elderly persons. My in my family, my mother-in-law, she is now 95 years. I learned many of the plant varieties, the medicinal value of plant varieties from her in my day-to-day life, and I applied so much. And I'm citing another example that in this COVID-19 pandemic period, the most common variety of plant used by and where the medicine is also prepared, that is in Lower Assam, it is known as Amar Lota. It is a neglected variety of plant, but now gains so much of importance to as immunity booster in this corona pandemic period. So that medicine purpose, we are using so much of plant varieties in our day-to-day life. That is an area. And my main focus is on natural resource management, land, forest, and water. And so there's so much of presentation. Land is considered as gift of God, and it is a vast resource. So the people in the hills, it is they practice the land-based livelihood system. So the use and access to land is managed very nicely traditionally. And a village in Rengma village known as Seminu, where the whole land area in the village is divided into several categories, where knowing the usefulness of the soil and other fertility concept of the area, they select their homestead land, which is known as Sibon Kabin, then agriculture land, Sibon Lo, then Jhum land, terrace land, Khunlo. So terrace requires running water source. So the terrace area within the village boundary is allotted in that area where there is water source. So that is the traditional knowledge reflected while dividing the whole village area into different purposes. Then the hill people of Northeast India, mostly they do shifting cultivation, commonly known as jhum. Jhum is a The word jhum is a Chinese origin, and it is a very common practice in the hills of Northeast India. And it reveals a huge knowledge system from its very beginning: allotment of land, then the method of firing, method of cutting the trees, because Zoom is a forest based land use system where forest is cut. But while cutting the forest, they do the selective cutting. All the trees are never cut. Some of the trees, valuable trees, are left uncut so that it can help in regenerate to the forest. And trees are never uprooted, and it will lead to the degradation of soil. So the people have that knowledge. And while allotting the cultivation plot to the villagers, there is no concept like landlessness. Everybody is provided land with a system of lease system, although some in Rema system, suppose they have the individual ownership system, but they provide uh, the access to every plot of land with their traditional technology, that and under the customary law, nobody can lie fallow their land which is not used. They have to give to some other persons who are in need of that land, and with a nominal rate they provide the access to that land to each and every cultivators. Then I'll go to the photographs better. You see that while cutting the trees, many of the trees are left uncut, and they use only digging stick, which make very little harm to the land and helps in preventing soil erosion. Then there is a system known as Lokho. It is known as Lokho among the Rengmas of Nagaland, that horizontal bars are set uh, to prevent the soil erosion. So that is a traditional technical knowledge they applied very nicely, and it is a mandatory part. And while burning operation is done, what they do, they declare the time and date of burning to the villagers previously, so that that they can prevent their children and domesticated animals not to go to the field. Secondly, they make a fire line surrounding their jhum plot, so that fire cannot spread to other areas. Only that in the limited portions, fire is limited to that portion. So making of fire line is a must in their area, and almost all the tribes follow some of the preventive measures not to spread, which prevents the spread of fire. And then the making the boundary, here you can see the boundary line, and some stones are ejected there. And in the prevailing belief system, nobody can remove, uproot that stone, boundary stone. And if I do it, then whole omen, bad omen will go to man, go to me, and my family will be destroyed. That is the prevailing belief system, although they are Christian nowadays, but that original animistic belief system still works, and nobody dared to remove that boundary stones, and which reduce the conflict regarding the occupation of their village land. So uh, by taking so much of measurement, applying traditional knowledge, they grow a large number of crops in their field, uh, that crops from cereal, pulses, oil seeds, spices, vegetables, fiber crops, fruit crops. And I am citing examples from two villages where 49 varieties in one of the village, Angami village, and 58 varieties from one of the Rengma village I have observed. And keeping the biodiversity intact means it help our that today's context of climatic change. So biodiversity is very, very essential. So traditionally, since Neolithic period, the people are maintaining their Jum area by adoption of various rules and regulations, and also the prevailing belief system and practice, and growing large number of crops together. And they also know, while uh, growing the crops, they know the friendly and anemic behavior between and among crops. For example, the paddy is never grown along with maize. Why? They know that there is no friend relationship between paddy and particular varieties of maize. So that knowledge they have. Secondly, the crops are arranged in multi-storied pattern so that each and every crop can acquire soil nutrient from different levels of soil, and again they can acquire the solar energy, making a canopy. So it requires knowledge of each and every crop, how much the size of the root, what is the size of the leaf, what will be the height of the plant, and these are followed by the community as a whole. Then there are actually so many things to be discussed, but I am focusing some of these due to time constraint. Now coming to the terrace cultivation, terrace is itself a traditional technology. It is rain fed. Jhum cultivation is dry cultivation, whereas terrace is rain-fed cultivation. It requires irrigation. And you know that Apatan is of Arunachal Pradesh and Angam is of Nagaland. They are traditionally well-known expert terrace cultivators. And Apatan is where they do the in their irrigation system. They make a reservoir in the upstream, and from that reservoir, they do the equitable sharing of water to each and every step and to each and every field. That is very important. And what they practice, that in the upper stream they use small bamboo pipes, which is eco-friendly, and in the lower area they use pine, little larger pine pipes, so that it can control the flow of water, because it coming from the hill area to the lower area. So controlling the water and distributing equally water to each and every step, and they maintain it traditionally very well maintained. And besides, they use some biofencing. Some check dam is made, and biofencing is done to maintain all these water sources, and that is specially applicable in case of Patani irrigation system. And there is another important thing they practice is paddy cum fish cultivation. Along with paddy, fish is grown, and one of the direct benefit of fish cultivation along with paddy is it check the weed growth. The weed is a very hazard in field. In 2, 3, 4 times weeding operation has to be done. It is very labor intensive. So in Apatani system, it prevents the weed, and at the same time people are getting paddy, because there is irrigation, it is wet paddy cultivation. So along with paddy, fish is cultivated, and this is a modern technology used in the rural development projects, many of the rural development projects, and part of sustainable development. Then the forest is a great resource for the hill people of Northeast. You know that Northeast is one of the biodiversity hotspot, and citing example, it possesses 10,000, almost 10,000 flowering plants and 825 varieties of orchid. So, so forest is a reservoir of those plant and animal species. So they have the concept of village forest, community forest, clan forest, sacred grove. That is another important thing that is observed by the people of Northeast. And you see that Apatanis of Arunachal Pradesh, they have 9 different categories of forest area, and each area is allotted for a particular kind of crops, particular kind of timber. So that knowledge system they have, it is part of their heritage. They maintain it. In the community forest, what kind of trees are to be grown, in the village grazing, what kind of thing are to be done. All these are predetermined, all these are uh, uh, nicely done by the villagers as a whole, the community as a whole. So is the case with Monpas of Arunachal Pradesh, where 5 different categories of land categories are identified by Dolo and Chaudhary, that community forest, village forest, individual forest, and sacred grove, community village grazing. So in each and every area, different kinds of timbers, bamboos are grown. So that is part of their knowledge system. And in Nagaland, there is the concept of village reserve. The people say that it is reserve area, and in one village there are 4 or 5 varieties of reserve forest, and access to it is controlled. It is treated as common property resource, so that nobody can use. They cannot use it according their wish. There is a village council, and with the help of customary laws, prevailing customary laws, it can be used as a common property resource. Of course, it is provided for use of so many valuable things, that timber, firewood, dry leaves, twigs, those can be used, but timber cannot be sold. Selling is banned totally. They can use it, medicinal plant, they can use it, but nobody can sell the forest product. The firewood also, for the whole year they collect firewood while cutting the forest, in doing the June cultivation. They collect the firewood for the whole year. So firewood collection is allowed from the forest, but selling of firearm is prevented. But there are few exceptional cases. I have observed in 2 cases, that Mima and Mitelfi villages of southern Angami area, that selling is allowed. Why? Because in that area it is said that there is no cash money available for the purpose of education. There is no salaried person, so selling of firewood is little allowed by the village council. So, looking at the present situation, they changed their methodology and make a survival possible for the people. And so is the case with water sources. Water is a very important resource. Water is a very important resource. So sharing of water, that is, we have seen in case of
Dr. Jonali, sorry to interrupt you, but you need to wrap up.
okay, I will wrap up definitely.
Thank you so much.
Okay, okay. In 1 minute, I will wrap up, madam. So, water is shared equally among the communities, among the different communities. Suppose in a village, in a particular area of river is associated with 3 different villages, then there is equitable sharing of water. Here, fishing is allowed, but fishing by poisoning is never allowed. The Apatanis of Arunachal Pradesh, they traditionally maintain a traditional technology known as chibok, where that fishing by using local herbs is allowed, but fishing by chemical use is never allowed, and heavy punishment is imposed on doing that. And so is the case with in Nagaland, and even in a community who are caught by doing fishing by applying chemicals, even 10,000 rupees is fine. So that is the case. So strong rule is there. So with their traditional technology, which become their cultural identity, they practice from generation after generation. They maintain their land, their forest and water resources very nicely. So that is, there is efficient utilization of limited natural resources, and uh, they are very close to nature. That is why it is possible, and they use very little waste which are biodegradable, and waste of one species is regarded the food of the other, resulting no accumulation. And more important is that they take from nature whatever they actually require, and not more than that. And that the ethics we are getting the Indian heritage, we are derived from Upanishad, where it is considered that whole universe together with its creatures belong to the Lord nature. No creature is superior to any other, and no human being should not have absolute power over the nature. Let no species encroach upon the rights and privileges of other species. And that is the Indian ethics, the values, and that is maintained by the tribal societies, the indigenous societies, the local communities of Northeast India, from both hills and plains. I am citing just few examples. Actually, there are so many things to be discussed, but within limited time, it is not possible. Thank you, Chairperson Madam, for providing some extra few minutes. I don't know how whether I could do justice to my topic, but I citing some examples, and it is our intangible heritage. It has to be documented well, and it has to be preserved, and so that the climate change can be prevented, and deforestation can be prevented, and also biodiversity has to be preserved. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jonali Devi. Now, next presenter and is going to share her knowledge is going to be Dr. Sangeeta Gogoi, who is a professor and head of Department of History of Mangaldai College in Assam, and she's going to be speaking on Moi-dams of the Che-Rai-Doi, a proposed work, and she wants to propose that they should become a World Heritage Site, and she's going to make a case for that, and that should be very interesting because usually we don't have this kind of World Heritage Sites that are being created in northeastern India, and we really need to do that because kind of biodiversity and ethnic diversity and traditional knowledge systems that we have are very, very important. So I really look forward to hearing you, Dr. Gogoi. Please. You need to unmute yourself. No, no, you need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Here. There is a little button that says, yeah.
You are not audible, ma'am.
Dr. Gogoi, you need to unmute yourself.
Uh,
Can you do it from your master button?
I think, ma'am, because of possible phone, there is some coming up. Maybe you
Hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yes, thank you so much.
Can you? Is my skin is visible?
Hmm.
Hello? Is my skin visible?
Yes, your screen is visible. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I can say,
Yeah.
hello? Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Uh, uh, Title of my paper is Moi-dams a World Heritage Site, Civilisations and Prospect. So we can see that in every traditional society of the world, particular rituals are in connection with the childbirth, marriage, and death. Different methods of faith.
Sangeeta ji, Sangeeta, you've gone mute again. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Now, okay. So in every, it is very interesting that different groups of Thai people also have their own system of mortuary. In this paper, attempt has been made to discuss about the royal burial system of the of the Ahoms, a particular Thai group who had migrated to the valley of Brahmaputra from Southeast Asia. And it is a very interesting and in-depth subject. I suppose which will give all of us some information about the ancient practices prevalent among the Thais in general and the Ahoms in particular. The objective of my paper is to get the Moi-dams, that is the burial system of the Ahoms, focused to the scholarly world and let the people know about the history and significance attached to it. This is the site of Moi-dam in Che-Rai-Doi. And the starting my presentation, I want to show you the homeland of the majority of Thai people. It is in and around southern China and other Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and also Northeast India. And the Ahoms, we have to give an introduction of the Ahoms as we are speaking about the mortuary system of the Ahoms. They were the westernmost Thai group who had migrated to the upper regions of the Brahmaputra River Valley in the second decade of 13th century, crossing the Patkai ranges and established a powerful Thai kingdom in the eastern, that is extreme eastern part of present-day Assam after subjugating its local inhabitants like Moran, Borahis, Chutia, Kasaris, etc. Modern historians, linguists, and social scientists have forwarded sufficient number of evidences which confirms that the Ahoms were originally a section of the Tai Mao or Maoshans of the Tayai branch of the Greater Thai race who had migrated from Mong Mao, a powerful Thai kingdom situated in the periphery of Upper Burma and present-day southwestern China. The name Ahom was locally given to them by certain tribes of Mongolian stock living in the Brahmaputra river valley. The Ahom chronicles, called as Buronji, provide the most valuable information about the advent of a group of Thai people in 1215 AD from Kiangsen Maolung, the capital of powerful Thai Mao state of Mong Mao, situated on the bank of Nam Mao River that today form a port boundary of Dehongdai Jingpo Autonomous Prefecture in Yunnan and North Sanui state of Burma, which I visited several times. And the Thai migrants were led by Saulung Sukafa, a Thai prince who had left his original home, the kingdom of Mung Mao, due to some acute political and economic reasons. Sukafa came with the objective of establishing an independent kingdom following the Thai Ban Mung system of administration backed by a strong military force. This was a route followed by the Ahoms, and you can see it is in Yunnan part. And this is the from this tip they migrated and they went all along and they crossed Bichena, Mugang, Patkai Hills, and they came to the upper portion of or eastern, extreme eastern most part of the Brahmaputra Valley. This is also another map where we can see the route they followed. And till the end of 17th century, the Ahom kings carried on several enterprising endeavors to overthrow every challenges of expansion, particularly towards the west, and succeeded in establishing the Ahom kingdom. After the final expansion of the Ahoms from Assam, expulsion of the Mughals from Assam in 1682, the boundary of Ahom kingdom extended from the region of Sadia in the east to the river Mana in the west on both banks of Brahmaputra, which remained unaltered till its occupation by the British. Uh, it was partly by their policy of matrimonial alliances and partly by socio-cultural assimilation that the Ahom rulers paved the way for the growth of a composite nationality, which was later on recognized as the Assamese. The small Thai kingdom, established by the founder King Sukafa, was grown into a large kingdom with a new name Acham or Assam, and finally Assam, which is at present an integral part of the Indian constitution. The Ahoms brought their own ideas and institutions of polity, economy, language, literature, religion, and society, which are typical to the Thai people of the Upper Mekong and Upper Salween valleys in the last part of 11th century and part of 12th century that is prevalent in that area. Sokafa and his successors implanted these systems and institutions in their newly founded kingdom in such a way that in course of time, this Thai culture became the backbone of the entire Ahom state policy for long 600 years and remained as the national heritage of the Ahoms. Its effect was so deep rooted that the impact of this Thai concept or philosophy is still very prominent in the fabrics of the socio-cultural life of the Assamese in general and the Ahoms in particular. And now I'm going to the subject, the Ahom burial system. The Ahoms practiced a kind of peculiar burial system unknown to the Brahmaputra people that inhabiting the Brahmaputra valley. They buried their dead and over the grave raised mold, which is called as Moi-dam or Moi-tam in Ahom language. Literary, in Ahom's context, the term Moi means rimi or frozen, and dam means location or site. The word dam also connotes black or dark. Thus, Moi-dam stands for burial grave in English. In its true sense, Moi-dam is a rest house of the corpse under the soil. The tomb burial tradition of the Thais is very old and might have been inherited from a common practice in China, as we know that all the Thai people were living in the Wanghu and Yansikyang valleys. They were early settlers of that area. Apart from its technical part, a number of ancient Thai rites and rituals are attached to this kind of mold burial system of the Ahoms. To have a good study of the Ahom burial system, we must have a clear picture about the ancient religious belief and practices of the Ahoms at the time of their migration in the early decade of 13th century. What was the religion of the Ahom in the early decades of 13th century? They did not they did not practice any major religion. There was no codified religion of the Ahoms. They had a cult of royal tutelary deity where they uh, worshipped one deity and who is known as they call this as Sumdeo. And the cult there is a cult of ancestor worship, the cult of heavenly gods and minor gods. They worship a number of gods and minor gods. And there is a cult of fee or spirits or guardian gods. They believe that each body of a person or they have some what you say they are guided by some spirits, and also some their spirits also uh, are the guardian of some other articles, which may be the mountain, the river, the waters, the paddy fields, etc. They also believe in life spirit or vitality, which they call as Khon. Nature of Ahom religion. The gods of Ahom pantheon are formless. The Ahoms are not image worshippers. The idea of rebirth is absent. There is no duality of human soul. The Ahom religion is very much ritualistic in nature, and blood sacrifice is important in Ahom religious practices. And the rites and rituals followed in the Ahom burials. The Ahom royal burials was different from the burial of common Ahoms. The number of special and sacred rites and rituals are attached to the burial of the Ahom kings. The Ahoms, like other Thai Yai or Big Thai groups, share a common origin theory that demands its original linkage directly to the heaven. They ascribe divine origin of their kings and claim that they were divinely ordained people and so they were considered to be immortal. When death was occurred to an Ahom king, the news was kept secret. It was only after the necessary coronation ceremony of the new Saufa or the king was completed, the death of the previous king was officially declared. It was done to maintain the continuity of the rule of their Saufa, the son of heaven. Devi, I must mention that Ahom kings were called as Saufa in Thai term and also as Sorgodeo in Assamese. So no interval was allowed to exist between two periods of rule in the throne. It is the new king who can order to make a coffin for the dead body of the king to be buried. In the Ahom language, the coffin is called as Tengfai. Concept of date and Ahom burial system, which is an ancient Thai tradition. The concept of rebirth is totally absent in Ahom belief system. Instead, the philosophy of life spirit is prominent in their death rituals. The Ahom belief system states after the death of every individual, he or she does not reborn but becomes Fi, Fa, or Sang, that means spirit, God, or higher God, and permanently starts living in a place called as Mongfai, world of ancestors. Therefore, Ahom people worship these Fi Fa Sang from Mung Meokon, that means world of mankind, and seek blessings from them. It is significant that the soul goes to the heaven as a whole. There is a saying among the Ahoms, Moriu Devota Hol, meaning a person becomes a god after his death, which clearly proves this theory. It was an ancient burial system abandoned by a number of Thai groups after their conversion to Buddhism. But the Ahoms continued their old Thai burial system during their entire rule of 600 years with minimum division. Ancestor worship is the essence of Ahom religion, which is related to idea of soul living forever. Departed elders and all gods and goddesses of Ahom pantheon are their ultimate ancestor. Menomorphy is the sacred ceremony of offering respect and sacrifices to the ancestors, both the gods and the departed souls. A person is not reborn after death. Instead, he or she remains in the state of dam or dead, and only after receiving proper worship from close ones, he or she assumes the status of a fee or god. After attaining the status of fee, it resides in the assigned place in one of the several heavens with other departed relatives, and from there observes every activity of their descendants in earth and protect them. The Ham worship and remember their ancestors in all special occasions and to please them. Now, Serai-Doi is a sacred place of Ahom royals. Although Moi-dams are found in all districts of Upper Assam, but Serai-Doi was the necropolis of almost all the Ahom royals. In 1268 CE, Sukafa, the founder Ahom king, was buried at Serai-Doi at a spot to the east of the main shrine of their god, that is called as Deohal, observing their religious rites and rituals. It turned into a norm to bury Ahom kings, queens, princess, and that means all the royals at Serai-Doi during their 600 years of rule. Many high-ranking nobles, officials were also buried at Serai-Doi. The Ahom royal burial was done amidst much pomp and grandeur in Serai-Doi. What is Serai-Doi and what is its historical significance? Serai-Doi is situated 28 kilometers east of present Sibsagar town at the foot of Naga Hills, which is an extension of the Patkai mountain range. Serai-Doi was the first capital of Ahom kingdom established by its founder king Sokafa in 1253 CE and remained so for 145 years. In Ahom chronicles, it is called as Chetam-doi, Chalung, Che-Khamram, meaning city of hill, big city, city of golden stairs. It was also called as Doi Phi, which means hills of God or sacred hills. Serai-Doi was the center of religious activities of the Ahom royalty till the end of their rule in 1826 CE. For its territorial location, Serai-Doi has remained a sacred place of the local Barahi community even before the arrival of the Ahom. It was at the suggestion of the Barahi chief, Thakumtha Sukafa selected this place as his final abode and capital of his newly found kingdom. A number of archaeological remains of innumerable burial tombs, water tanks, ramparts, roads, ruins of shrines are scattered in and around Serai-Doi, which has proved the historical importance of the place, and it attracted the attention of all the visitors. This is the map of Serai-Doi, where you can see it is from Guwahati. It is there, and it is very much close to Nagaland. And this is a Serai-Doi, and these are some of the pictures of Ahom royal molds that are the Moi-dams. You can see this is a big one, and this had been this was excavated by ASI state, and this was also excavated in 2002 2003, and this is a picture of ongoing by that time of the excavation. Architecture of royal Moi-dams. All royal burial tombs from 1226 1268 to 1696 AD were made of wood. From 1712 onwards, there shows a significant development in the construction of the royal Moi-dam. Instead of wooden structure, high quality stone and burnt bricks of various sizes were used in the construction of inner chambers. Every Moi-dam was constructed with an underground chamber having an arched roof and a door. Several compartments are constructed one upon another. Some chambers have only one story above the floor, while others have uh, two with steps to climb the upper stories. The Moi-dams are built with bricks and stones cemented by the mortar mix consisting of black pulses, resin, molasses, duck eggs, a kind of local fish called as barali, ham, lime, that means from limestone and stain cell. There are generally three major features of a massive masonry Moi-dam: a massive underground vault with a domical superstructure crowned with a small open pavilion known as the Chausali, a four-roofed chamber. The hemispherical earthen mound covering the entire masonry work, excluding the Chausali, that means the four-roof chamber, often fits with one or more layers of brick flat on its surface. And another is the octagonal boundary wall around the base of the mound, having an arched gallery on its west. Boulders of different sizes, broken stones, bricks, and broken bricks were used in the construction of the Moi-dams. Large stone slabs were used for the basic foundation and for the portion of the chamber below the ground level. The sizes, method of construction, and the quality of the materials used in the construction of royal Moi-dams were different in different period of Ahom rule. Larger burial chamber with oval-shaped roof and octagonal circumference made of brick around the base of a Moi-dam was constructed. The structural pattern of the vaults was always very massive. The beams and planks used in them was abnormally large and of high quality so that it could withstand the weathering effect of the soil for centuries. According to Sangrung Fukonor Buronji, the Moi-dam of Saufa Sutamla, that means Gadadhar Singha, which which is recorded as the biggest with a height of about 60 cubits above ground. It is of a giant size, occupying about 4 acres of land. The Moi-dams of King Sivasingha, who died in 1744 AD, had an underground chamber measuring 12 cubits in length, 10 cubits in breadth, and 14 cubits in height. Measurement of the body of the vault at bottom was 324 feet in breadth, circumference is 972 feet, height 50 feet above the ground level. It is a three-storied brick building for preserving the dead body of the king. That's why I gave you the information. And royal officers in charge of Ahom royal Moi-dams. The most authentic information about the royal Moi-dams are documented in the official record book named Sangrung Fukonor Buronji, where Sangrung Fukon, the chief engineer, has properly recorded every detailed information about the measurements, number of laborers, and materials used, time and duration needed in building different royal Moi-dams. The royal Moi-dams were under the direction and supervision of Sangrung Fukon, who was one of the 9 Fukons of highest rank. Special trained laborers known as the Moidamia Pikes means labor, were entrusted with the task of construction, strict supervision, and careful maintenance of these royal Moi-dams. One of the royal priests, who is known as Mo Sai Fukon, was entrusted with the charge of regular worship of the dead kings and queens and to make the daily offerings to the spirit of the dead. He had a light he had to light the lamps of the Moi-dams regularly and to beautify the area with flower gardens all around the graveyard. Preservation of the dead bodies, how the dead bodies of the kings and the royals were preserved. The burial procedure of a king takes time ranging from 6 months to 2 years for the construction of a royal Moi-dam. After the death of a king, his body is not immediately buried. The dead bodies were preserved for long duration for submerging them in a particular liquid called as rah, which is a mixture of medicinal herbs with honey or juice of sugarcane. This is a traditional Thai system which is still in practice in the San state of Myanmar. The preserved dead body of the king was kept in place called Sa Sothwa Nagar or Gomutha Nagar till it was taken out for its final burial. The dead body of the king was put in a wooden coffin called as Rung Dam in Ahom language. It was made up of 6 pieces of single plank of a special type of timber called orium, that is Baspica jivonica, which is very precious and durable. It is painted with red and yellow colors made up of local herbs that is called as Hangul Haital in Assamese. Both the inner and outer sides of the coffin are also nicely decorated with melted gold designs. Inside the coffin, all necessary carpets, mattress, bed sheets, quilt, Gold and silver embroidered pillow are arranged properly, where the king's dead body was finally laid down to rest. As a custom, the coffin of the dead king is allowed to be carried by the members of Gharfolia clan towards that means special clan or special family were entrusted with this task, and it was considered very honor for those clans that the members of Gharfolia clan they carried the coffin from the head side and the Lukhurakon clan towards the feet. The coffin was accompanied by the close relative of dead king and senior nobles on its both sides. A royal funeral procession. The royal funeral procession was observed with high degree of pomp and grandeur. There is a particular road known as Sonia Ali, Bahonia Ali, along which the dead body of the Ahom king was carried to the royal graveyard at Cheraidoi from the Gomutanagar. The royal procession was headed by the sword bearers. The royal priest also accompanied the coffin, chanting the necessary prayers. The presence of 10 attendants, like the chief bodyguard, uh, royal cook, royal messenger, male and female attendants, fan, whisk, and pigeon holders were indispensable and must accompany the funeral procession of Ahom kings. These people were responsible to serve the king even in the grave, or after, that is believed that after death. According to Ahom belief, the dead king is regarded as living till entombed. Therefore, during the funeral procession, if any subject of the king makes a complaint to the dead king, the coffin bearers can reply in lieu of the king, which is very implemented, which was duly implemented. Uh, the number of articles considered necessary for the daily use of the king was also arranged. A lamp stand with plenty of oil was put. The main chamber is when the main chamber is ready, all articles that are necessary formalities are done. The king's coffin is brought to the grave and placed on the bed prepared for the dead king, keeping the head towards east. The attendants take their after excuse me, hello. After paying their last formal respect to the departed king, all the people came out from the main temple, called as the Karen Dam, except men belonging to the Lukuraku clan and the attendants of the Mongol, and then the door of the Mongol finally closed. Uh, it is commonly said that Ahom had the practice of burying living human beings with the dead king to some extent, but there are many controversies uh, going on these topics. Many European and Persian many Europeans and Persian scholars, along with chroniclers, have maintained that the practice of burying dead kings in their grave. Abuddin Talis, the Persian Wakya Nabis, who accompanied the Lord the Mughal general to the Ahom in 1862, saw the royal burial mounds at Che-Rai-Doi and noted the digging up Moi-dams by the Mughal army. He is reported about the sacrifice of the women and servants of the royal theater with the disease. Yet, vaults were opened by order of the Nawab and property worth 90,000 rupees was recovered. In one vault where the wife of a Raja was buried about 80 years ago, a golden pandan was found and a pan was still raised. The Dutch sailor Lanius, who accompanied Mizora Assam expedition, recorded in his personal diary about the unique burial system of the Ahoms and the picture found in the mouth.
Dr. Sangeeta, you have 2 more minutes. Can you wrap up, please?
Okay, that's what I think. Okay, so there are many police officers also who have given important information regarding the sacrifice of human beings in the thing. So I'm going to wrap up. So I want to say some very important points here that a good number of these royal graves were opened up by Museum La, and during British period also Moi-dams were dug out by the greedy British officers and some local people. And the Nathan Brown, Christian missionary, who has given that during his stay, he has seen 13 of these tombs were wrapped up. So now the present condition of Ahom royal Moi-dams is divided under two heads. And the ASI has preserved 4 huge Moi-dams since 1951, and good number of small Moi-dams are under the preservation and protection of Assam State. Assam State Archaeology. And so Cheraidoi has been declared as a national property for its historical importance in 1975 AD. Under the supervision of these government departments, at least two Moi-dams have been so far excavated and open for tourists. And there are findings by ASI, and from the ASI, which has been a scientific excavation under the Guwahati circle, they have exposed many hidden truths about the unique burial system. The most significant is that the Moi-dams resemble the description given in the Ahom chronicles, that is Sangrung Fukonor Buronji. So you can see here, this is the sketch. This is the sketch of a Moi-dam by Curzon, earliest sketch of a Moi-dam by Sergeant K. C. Clayton. Okay, this one. And these are some of the uh, artifacts that were found when the excavation was carried on by ASI, which I have taken from ASI with due permission. Yes, findings of ASI, and they done this kind of excavation and artifacts found inside Moi-dam. Here you can see some what do you say, uh, ivory works, and these are the remains of humans. Uh, and I'm coming to the final part, that we can see some similarity of Ahom Moi-dam with the Chinese Moi-dams, and these they resemble in shape and also arrangement. You can see here, yeah, these architectural similarity of Moi-dams of Assam, that means Ahom and Chinese, they are very much similar in the architecture, not only and also in construction. These are some pictures here, and this is a art and burial mound, and this is also from, I have taken it from the internet, and this is a interior of a Chinese tomb. See, this is art and Moi-dam. This is Moi-dam in Japan, and these are unused Moi-dam. They were constructed but not used, and architecturally not, but pyramids are although are quite different, but ritual belief and customs related to both are same. The ancient Egyptian had an elaborate set of burial custom that they believed were necessary to ensure their immortality after death. These rituals and protocols included mummification, casting of magic spells, burial with specific great good thought to be needed by soul after death. So we can see that we in Assam also, among the Ahom also, the rituals and practices and the belief system that are prevalent among the Chinese and even the Egyptians are very common. So the capital of Ahom kingdom was changed several times, but Che-Rai-Doi remained as the center of Ahom culture and tradition till date. The royal tombs of Che-Rai-Doi possess universal value both ethno-culturally and in its architectural design. In nowhere in India we can find such burial tombs with such peculiar belief system, which is still a living tradition among the priestly and princely section of the Ahoms, once the ruling dynasty of Assam. The rites and rituals related to their burial process provide us some very interesting information about the burial system of the Ahoms and its significance to become a World Heritage Site under UNESCO. In the conclusion, I want to say that the unique architecture and the belief system related to the Che-Rai-Doi Moi-dams are wonderful and noteworthy, but unfortunately, these monuments have not given importance as World Heritage comparing to the Egyptian pyramids and the Chinese royal tombs, which have been recognized as site of World Heritage. The ASI Circle of Guwahati, Assam had submitted its proposal for inclusion of Che-Rai-Doi Moi-dams in the list of World Heritage Sites under UNESCO in 2014. Accordingly, it has been included in the tentative list of World Heritage Site in 2016, which is a very good news. There are lots of demands from many organizations and institutions for the timely fulfillment on the ongoing necessary procedure. We do, through this presentation, appeal to the respective authorities to consider the outstanding characteristics of Che-Rai-Doi Moi-dams and justify its claim to be World Heritage Site with all its uniqueness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gogoi, and we would have loved to hear more about this very fascinating site and traditions and rituals, and I'm sure at some other point, we would like to interact with you more, because this is just absolutely fascinating. So, thank you so much. I would like to invite Dr. Professor Sukanya Sharma, who's Professor and Head, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at Guwahati, and she's going to talk about the centuries in the past. I think we will get to know about historical sources. I hope about how we can trace intangible heritage, and intangible cultural heritage, and that would be really interesting, because it's something that's a very problematic area, and anything that we get to know about this would be absolutely great. So, we look forward to your presentation, Dr. Sharma.
Yeah. Good morning, Baawa. Good morning to Jonali Baido and Sangeeta Baido, and to all the viewers. Thank you to the Heritage Society Patna, Ananta Ashutosh Divedi, who cordially invited me, and Dr. Tipira Khakoli from the State Archaeology Department, Government of Assam, to this seminar. Happy to be part of this deliberations. The point. This is my the title of my talk, which is Footprints of the Past, which is sort of a term which I thought would be appropriate just now when I'm working in certain aspects of intangible cultural heritage, where I have found that they just simply flow down from unknown past, and it is from that point, that perspective, that I would like to share some of my experience with you all regarding intangible cultural heritage. Professor Jonali Devi has already given you the definitions, but these are not definitions exactly what I want to put forward. But these are rather certain observations of the heritage definition, which includes both tangible and the intangible. And if you look at the end of the definition of heritage given by UNESCO in 2004, it says that we pass on to future generations to learn from, marvel at, and enjoy. Now, this was something which was like, so is it that we enjoy our heritage and it helps and marvel at? It seems like, we need this, we sort of, we need this heritage to be proud of ourselves, which is a very important aspect of our being in this world, a sense of belongingness to any community, society, or to the country or to the world. Now, the whole, again, the same thing about intangible, which I thought, in fact, why I'm telling you this is because this is how I want to actually channelize my talk, and also present to you the understanding of the intangible heritage. That is about that, which is continuously recreated and which is, evolves as we adapt. So, what I find amazing about intangible cultural heritage, now that we are now, when you're working in it, it is all the time we find that they're continuously recreated, and in fact, that is one aspect which has kept it, which has kept it alive. In the sense of tangible, till the structure stands or you make efforts to keep it there, there is a record. But intangible, otherwise there will be no record. But what we have seen is within the system itself, if I call intangible cultural heritage ICH the system, there is a mechanism, inbuilt mechanism by which this stays alive. And we have seen this, the shifting cultivation example, which Professor Jonali Devi just showed to us, how it has traveled in time. And as we can, and we have also seen that it evolves with time, and it adapts. Now, this is one. That is one part, which again, this whole fact about adaptability. So there is learning and there is adaptability, which keeps it going. And as a result of which, it is something which is always which is which is alive or which is remaining. Though there are discourses which go to talk about extinction, which go to talk about disappearance, and of course, maybe that's also not false that in certain cases there is disappearance happening. But what I if you look at this disappearance, what we feel is you have disappearing people. Then you have disappearing cultural diversity with people, their diversity goes, and what you have is the disappearance of intangible cultural heritage. And that is a very interlocking system, but as you can see that one is dependent on the other, and is one, and the other is responsible. So it is like with if the ICH disappears, people will also disappear with it. So if it is like people will disappear, the cultural diversity. So how in the sense of not people disappear in the a sense of physical extinction, I mean, but I mean as communities, as societies, if you all tend to become just of one type, and there is no homogeneity or diversity, there is loss of cultural diversity and is a disappearance. So so how it becomes how it becomes a risk when it's lost forever, or rather is it that it is lost forever? Now that is a question that I have in my mind, and I have been looking at things in the sense of do they really disappear, or do they just become they are not there? So um, yeah, just I think I'll just come. Yes. Sorry for I'm not stopping the screen, but I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible. Professor Baawa, is it fine? Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
all fine. You just need to now.
okay. Uh, okay. The screen is visible, right, properly, and I'm audible. Fine.
Now you just need to do your
Hello.
slideshow. So you need to go to your slideshow.
So the slide is there. The slides are there.
You just need to. Yeah. Now we can see. Now you can't see anything except you. So you go back to shares.
Okay. Okay. The slides are visible. That is okay. I'm sorry to do this, but I thought I was a little worried when I went a little ahead. So safeguarding, protection, conservation is something which is all the time something a call given for ICH
Showing the slide.
because of its fragility, and how it has what we see that ICH needs a complete different treatment than tangible heritage, where this whole role of the community to keep it alive, to recreate it continuously, and the way it's transmitted from one generation to another. Now, if it is fossilized or frozen, there is a problem that it might lose that those characters, and as a result of that, it might just not be able to survive. What I mean to say is that when I'm calling it footprints of the past, I have actually looked at certain traditions. We really don't know. It's not like from which time period, for what reason they evolved and they have traveled. But what I have found is that in this in ICH, which is like maybe songs, music, maybe certain traditions of rituals. Now this within that, what gets embedded is certain signatures of the particular period. Now this needs very fine sieving, of course, to use it as a data. What I am saying is something like a new ethnographic perspective, where this can be used as data, as a source. Now, when in Northeast India we have issues, or rather we are not able to interpret the material evidence, well, what is happening is that what we find, and we are trying to tap new different type of sources. ICH can also be considered as a source, because what we find is that what we have today has traveled in time, and during this travels, it has incorporated in itself certain happenings, certain features of certain time periods. Now, of course, this is difficult to detect because language is an issue. A lot of it is in languages which all of us may not be acquainted with. So we need a lot of help from linguists. We need a lot of help from language experts. The other issue is also about how the sieving, technically, people have tried using softwares like ANOVA to detect sounds of chants. Like I have a Idumishim example here, where there are chants which are recited in funerals during the rites, that which goes back to say, like somebody told me, goes even back to some priest has the capacity to 27 generations. So 27 generations of the deceased. Now 27 generations of the deceased means it was talking about his parents or her parents, grandparents, in the sense of who married where, when, how many rivers they crossed, which mountain they came across, which flower they gifted each other. So many of this information which is embedded in those chants. Now what the languages are at times, again, language in fact is a major problem. It is also a problem of decoding it, a problem of documenting it, because documenting intangible heritage, like what Professor Jonali Devi was showing, and also this whole Moi-dam construction thing in Che-Rai-Doi, what you see, did we some like for the shifting cultivation too, it has traveled in time, and in different time periods it has got itself into many changes, but they have adapted, they have recreated, and that is how it has survived. Like, but for the modern building technique, it hasn't survived. Or maybe it is there in text, or maybe it was sometimes it also happens, if society doesn't feel the requirement of it, society will give it up, people will give it up. So in that sense also, maybe Moi-dams were supposed to be sort of maybe not cost effective, maybe a costly fare, maybe only when the royal power was not there, it was. But that's how we find. And I'm just bringing here two case studies from Arunachal Pradesh to explain what I mean by saying that using ICH as source material for archaeological for interpreting archaeological evidence of Northeast India, and how this whole database, it is how it can be treated, or can we really treat it as a database. This is a traditional Khamti dance drama. UNESCO has this intangible cultural heritage domain, and this comes under performing arts. And this is called Kapung, which is the data was recorded in Namsai subdivision. This was part of a doctoral dissertation by my student Rashmi Rekha Sharma, and she was, of course, objective of the thesis was different. She was looking at culture change. But what we saw was how this traditional dance drama, and in fact this is true of many of these type of collective or community rituals in the world today, how these type of performances have not been able to cope up with changing times. So in case of this dance dramas too, which are Jataka stories, mainly Jataka stories of Lord Buddha, Ramayana, and also Ramayana and Mahabharata, these are the main themes. And it is like in the season when they have to be organized. They sort of the whole village gets involved, and then You can see the paraphernalia, like they have this demon. There are many of these objects, like demon mask, this gongs. Now these are things which actually will pass on to the archaeological context, and maybe would come to our hands with time. But again, to actually, if you look at the figure here, and to actually put this in context, how can we use, if you find it in archaeological evidence, archaeological context, buried, how do we use maybe no the intangible cultural heritage, the database, to maybe help us to identify, to sort of interpret this. Now, this performance is a combination of dialogue, music, and dance. And as you can see that the sound is a serious matter, then because particular sounds give particular situations. There's a dialogue narrating, chanting style. Then there are particular tones. And what happens is, after the harvesting season, from October onwards, the Pung troops, they are called Pungs, they sort of start performing. And they go around, villagers invite them, maybe wealthy families will invite them to perform. And this traditionally, this was what was the performing style. It was performed in an open place. So you have like open ground, which is like after harvest, the field is the cultivation field is used. And there are these banana plantain, the plantain saplings, which are there in the middle of the ground, where they plan to have the performance. And the orchestra sits around, and then the audience. Now this goes on for 3 nights, 3 days continuously, and the performance continues. So it's like the audience also spends their time there. There is food coming in. They generally are celebration mood, and where everybody is sort of, the villagers are all there, sharing this mood, and they are all actively participating. Now what is happening these days is, because of the changes that we see, like this Khamti children are all getting educated in today's schools, where the language is not taught. And they are not able to catch those dialogues. The other is also the fact about that many of them are out of their village, and because of mainly for educational purpose, and also the young adults for maybe economic purpose, for jobs. So full night performances are also becoming difficult, because people do not have so much time to give them, and also space. When you went to the village, they also said that to find an open ground like that, where they can organize the whole dance drama in the way they have to traditionally, is a question. So I have put here in the table, if you can see, like now it has converted into a stage performance, and full night performance have reduced in certain cases to 45 minutes. And women have come in, and there was this very interesting thing about how the simple dance steps, now they are picking up dance steps from from TV, looking at Bharatnatyam, looking at Kathakali, and trying to use the mask, and performing same with costume. So how they are trying to keep this, because when you cannot actually say the dialogues that you have to say. Now that is one thing which they have which they are dealing with now, this particular community. And what they're doing is to teach the young Khamtis who cannot write Khamti Thai language. They are using English or Hindi or Assamese to write the dialogues. So what's happening is that these dialogues, sorry, hello, hope I'm audible. Is this can you see my slides properly?
Yes, we can see
Okay,
you and
thank
hear
you.
you.
So what is happening is that they are making an effort by which they are trying to actually keep this whole system alive. Now, this intangible heritage, as you can see, has sort of adapted with time, has sort of adapted with changes. If it does not adapt, it will disappear. It will, like, people will just stay away. So what is happening is that there are now young companies who are keen, and there are companies who are staying in other parts of India, working in companies who sort of, in the annual calendar mark those days to come back home to perform and participate. So it is sort of, how the intangible heritage, the people are trying to manage it. And this cannot be done by like, conservation laws, or talking about what we have of extinction. But again, there is another which I want to show, another case study we did on oral traditions and among the Idumishmi community, something which I mentioned to you just now. And there we find it is even, the scenario is a bit different, where you have, because these are, oral chants, as I told you, during funerals, then, during weddings. Weddings, in fact, are not there in their method at all nowadays, very rare. I could not participate, but funeral I could. And what has happened is that they are, faced with a problem of very low population, and the young people marrying outside the community. So what has happened is priesthood. So the oral tradition, the oral chants, the somehow after, the old priest or have are no longer there. They are facing this problem of, like, their genealogy was maintained by the priest, in this chants. And he could actually tell who are you, like, how many, he could go back 3, 4, 5, as I told you, somebody said even marvelously that 27 generations. Now, with all the geographical, botanical, zoological information that is chance where the genealogy was, that is going away. Now the this community is also trying in many ways, but they have also what is called collaborated with IFLU Hyderabad to develop their own script, and they are also trying to write little limericks, poetry for to attract children, little books for children, teach it in school, in schools, not as formal but as informal manner of teaching. Now, but what is happening is that even after that is they are doing all this, that is rapidly disappearing. Now, this kind of an issue, where we see that one group is optimistic, the Khamti, they feel that, this is how we know, and they are finding on mechanisms. They are recreating, they're adapting, and they are changing, but they are, sort of developing. And what in the process, what I saw was in the ICH, they were incorporating today's elements, which would be very important for me as an archaeologist. If I can decodify that, maybe 100 years, 200 years back, some archaeologists, they can know about this society, this how it was. But while we can see the other group, the Idumishimis, they are pessimistic, and they are completely denying this potentiality. Low population is a major problem we saw. So what I feel is, ICH has a particular rhythm, how it will keep itself alive. Now, I do not know if laws can control or if we can actually preserve it the way we want to, because we cannot just freeze it. And if we do it, passing it on to the future generation may not happen. Only that strengthens it. So how it's more like, you allow this intangible culture heritage to grow, to change. And if you're conservative and we do not allow, I think a situation will come when, it will simply just not be there. So, certain changes which are as a result of the present of the conditions of that period. This was something which I took from the UNESCO webpage, which showed, how they used web semantics and graphic visualization, and how they show that how these various domains of ICH are so intricately connected. So it's like, it's very difficult, and they have this themes, as you can see here, geography and ecosystems, the interconnections between them. So I'm sorry, this is an interactive graphic visualization, which I could not, which I did not actually hyperlink. But if you look at it, it's amazing to see how, each circuit, each of them are dependent. So what I mean to say is that for a community, it is not possible without ICH to live. More than the tangible, the intangible seems to be really important, and very important that the people allow it to survive. Just a brief, how I am talking about using it as a clue for the archaeological data, where I'm showing you two types of, I'm sure all of you must have seen this very commonly around. But what I'm showing you is two types of megalithic monuments. One is the sitting stones. And this was in 2010, who just expired a week back when I had gone to the field. This is very modern, the right at the bottom, which I say modern. Then this had a date of around 1950s, and this did not have a date but looked very remote by visualization. What we find here is that the shape and size of the sitting stones have not changed much over time. Like this is 2010, this is around 1950. You can see the time gap hasn't changed much, but here you can see, even here you can find that it has remained almost the same. But whereas if you look at this standing stones, the menhirs, you can see here that these are trialids, which is in a modern church, and this is our very famous the Natyang site, where you find this have not been chiseled and fine. They are all very rough and roughly hewn, and they have just been put any, there is an order, but the order is also very haphazard. Like this, stones have not been chiseled as you. Of course, this is modern machinery, but this is also not very old. This is around 1700s. This is modern, as I said again, around 2012. The church that I recorded, this is 1700s, and this does not have a date, but these are ancient, before Natyang. And the purpose of this, and the purpose of this, and the purpose of this. Am I skipping the time? These has all remained connected with death, but these are not all connected with death rituals anymore. As you can see, this is for commemorating the erection of a church. This was for commemorating a battle, and for events which are like festivals, etc. The whole of Natyang, it's written there why, who have erected this. And these are, like the ancestors who gets the tallest stone, and the family. So what you have is, you can see here, the idea has remained the same, something like the Itumishimi example that I given you, connected with the death. But here you can see, they haven't remained the same too. But if they would have remained the same, maybe for the death, people will not now, really trouble themselves so much to erect the stones, because erecting the stones is a lot of trouble. So what they have done is, they have kept it alive, but in this particular way of ornamental trialids, in erecting, in commemorating the building of the church. So this is how I feel ICH behaves, intangible cultural heritage. And my objective is to talk about how it is actually, I'm using it for, evidence, as a clue for understanding this. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen now. Yeah. I hope the time was fine. Professor Baawa, you are muted. We can't hear you.
From my side, it shows unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No? Yeah,
Yes.
can you hear me now? Yeah, so what I'm saying is, I'm really grateful to Dr. Sharma for giving us a perspective and a model to work with ICH, because that's also very important, because we need to understand how, how it's not static, and how we need to discuss and actually document and understand change, and actually theorize about these change, to keep not just to create a model for for studying it, but also for keeping it alive. So ICH is actually something that needs far more vigorously to engage with practice, and not just with just archives. So that I think has been brought out by everybody, and that I think is something that I really enjoyed, in all the sessions, because they talk about cross culturality, but it's also diachronic and synchronic both. So these sessions were particularly interesting for that reason. And being an art historian, of course, I'm very interested in Dr. Gogoi's presentation on the actual, you know, the royal Moi-dams at Shipsagar. So that, of course, is fantastic work for me, because that is a personal, uh, you know, interest. But otherwise, also, I found that Dr. Devi's and Dr. Sharma's presentations really brought out these aspects of how, in economic, material, as well as performative traditions, there are so many continuities which are absolutely important for understanding and documenting. So. I would ask in anybody who has any questions, you can put it in the chat box, or you can also, I think, I don't know how, but you can also I think talk to these people. You can also unmute yourself, I think, and ask questions, but chat box would be very nice. So questions for the three speakers. Dr. Bezbaruah could not be here because of some technical reasons, and will be presenting in the next session. So that's why I am presenting the concluding remarks. So before just ending the session, if you have any questions for any of the speakers, please do put them in the chat box. I think everybody is getting ready to ask questions. So before they do, I will take Dr. Gogoi. I was just wondering, because you were talking about these, the similarities between the Chinese and the Ahom tombs. So, and you also showed us the kind of roots that are there. But it's also this, I think, the Thai royalty that is also very closely connected with the Shipsagar and the royal mortuary cult. So, what are the connections that you can tell us something more about? You need to unmute yourself.
Because due to time constraint, I show some of the slides ahead. The thing is that the Ahoms were, as I mentioned earlier, the Ahoms were a group of Thai people. That is a group of subgroup that is called Thai Mao, and they actually migrated from the periphery of today's Burma and southern China, and their original homeland is called as Mung Mao, and it is now in the Chinese period. And before that, actually, in the last big migration that took place in the early 11th century, these Thai people actually they migrated from the valleys of Wanghu and Yangtze. And what I have seen, comparing the Chinese construction system and also the rites and rituals related to that, giving human beings or other animal sacrifices, and also their religious belief system, that this Chinese connection is somehow is present among these Thai Ahoms, because they have not accepted or they have not adopted the Buddhist religion like other Thai groups who have lost those characteristics of ancient Thai mortuary system. So as they have migrated from this area, which is mostly now in China, so somehow they have retained these characteristics in the mortuary system better, or only when during my life field studies to the while I study about the mortuary of other Thai groups in Thailand or in Laos or in northern Vietnam and Myanmar, I have not seen this kind of peculiar mortuary system that is making of burial mounds, which we call as Moi-dam. But we can see this kind of things very uh, similarity with the Chinese, because that's why I think that they have some connection with China, because this portion from where they migrated, it is related. Now is a portion of southern China. Now, that's why maybe, and in some time of history, they were this Pung Mao also became a tributary to the Chinese government. So maybe this culture they had, and they carried all the way to this portion. And we also actually get some information about in ancient time, this kind of tamulis were there in Burma, that means Upper Burma, which had been noticed by some European travelers and anthropologists or archaeologists also there, and which they have written. And so I think this is very much unique, and there is somehow it is related from that part, and this is an exchange of culture which still are present in this part of India. Yes. I'm not hearing. You have to mute it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because in order to hear you, I have to unmute. I have to go on mute. Otherwise, the voice echoes. So, yeah. So, anybody? Do we have questions? Not yet, but Sukanya Sharma, Dr. Sharma, I have a question about, if you could, what I found very interesting was that the chant that you were saying, that there is a chant which can, within the chant itself, hear of so many locational, genealogical, and other kinds of details which are fascinating. Your department, I'm sure, will do a lot of work in this direction. How, given the fact that many of the dialects and the language systems are have evolved so much, what is the methodology that you are kind of adapting or to understand these?
Uh, it wasn't very clear your voice, but you mean to say that how the way the dialogues have evolved. Yeah, if you could just repeat it once again, the last few lines.
Yeah, I just try to understand the methodology in documenting things like these genealogies, uh, and given that there is a loss of language, the loss of
Yes.
vocabulary over generations. What is the methodology? And that methodology can be looked at in ethnoarchaeology elsewhere. So it's a very fascinating sphere for me.
Yes, in fact, it is a linguist who have been working on it more, and they have used softwares like ANOVA to detect sound. But as you say, very difficult to actually correlate that or compare that with the actual dialect. That is one aspect, as I told you, that it needs repeated and continuous effort, in which maybe you will not be able to cover even two generations. There has been efforts. Oriental School of African Studies, Ocean and African Studies, from they have done a very huge digital project, and they have done thorough documentation of this. And I think the work is still on. They finished the documentation, I think, around 2012 or 11, or maybe even earlier than that. But the results are still awaited. So methodology, particularly, I think it will be very just now I cannot really tell you. It is mere documentation and identification using linguist the softwares like ANOVA, etc., where there is only detection of sound or type of sound. So in certain cases, words have been compared, and ideas have been made. But what I'm telling you about that they are able to, that's say for the last 100 years, maybe somebody who is doing it today. But the village that I frequent in Jono, near Rowing, which is the circle headquarters, the last priest is almost plus 90, or nobody knows his age. He's like so old. So very difficult actually. So the methodology to technical methodology to use it has not evolved, but people have documented it. A lot of people have documented and digitized it, but to churn out the data, it hasn't happened till now.
So
unmuted before I started asking that question. Because you were talking about material practices and land practices and plant varieties that are but the question that everybody I'm sure is very interested in is that this is so much in the news, and it's so much it's become part of a very large debate on how intangible heritage and medicinal knowledge and bioethics are being debated. So I was just wondering that how aware, you know, are they practice bioethics, which is very interesting. But how self-reflexive are these societies that you are talking about? I think that is something I was interested in, whether they are actually aware of the kind of knowledge systems that they possess and the need to document it, or is this intervention coming from outside? And does
All
that
from
actually
outside.
all from outside?
All from outside. And it is we are, some awareness is happening, as you can see that I did give some names. Even the Indonesia, they have a strong they have some NGOs, and outsiders also is not very easy to work. So they have actually sort of built up certain type of, we have trained some local students who are very good actually. These societies are trying very hard. They are always short of funds, but still they are making an effort by collecting funds, by requesting the government on and off. But what we find is, as you say, the actual methodology to detect it, going back is very slow. So it's like, the 50-year version you can understand. It's more like the language we know. But the 500-year-old version we cannot understand. So how to actually understand that? So people have been able to sort of, identify some words, some natural calamities. Like the Second World War comes, I don't know why, but then I figured out why very often. They talk about, bombs. They talk about, what is called flights. But then it seemed that there was a lot of activity. Now we know during the Second World War at that part of the, of that corner. So these type of detections, it's all use and overuse and curing, and the method is still very crude. I hope the social scientists work on it a little more. I'm waiting to look for the results from the Oriental and African Studies people. But there are efforts. Linguists are making serious efforts, and some of it has been done. But the efforts are all from outside, majorly from inside. Very hard. We're trying.
There was a question about movement of intangibles in Northeast world by Manita Pandey for you.
How do you see the movement of intangibles in the arena of global Northeast? Yes, can I answer that?
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay. So that was what actually my student was looking at when she was doing her doctoral dissertation. And in fact, one of the conclusions she drew and she wrote also in a thesis was that the CBSE curriculum, saying that the curriculum has taught them things which are which are not related to their day-to-day life, and they are doing it, and as a result of which, they are not having time for their own way of life customs. So they are learning particular type of prayers. And besides, the CBSE curriculum is there in Arunachal Pradesh and in many parts, because you have Don Bosco institutions running schools, you have Ramakrishna Mission running schools, you have Vivekananda Kendra running schools. So what's happening with the intangible is that it's getting sandwiched, or rather it's getting squeezed between this, because you cannot also deny this what you call benefits. And the children have to be educated in a particular way. Just for the sake of preserving ICH, you cannot say that you have to do this. But if you look at the Khamti example, the way they are doing it, it has been an effort for the last 30 years. It hasn't happened, and it's still not that they're having huge results, but it is an effort. It looks optimistic, and in that way, if you can adapt to the changes, maybe it will survive. So yes, as you say that the globalization cannot be stopped, should not be stopped, and at the same time there is a requirement for the intangible to survive. As you can see, both my the previous other presenters had said. So and as I looked at, when I look at biodiversity, it is cultural diversity is equally important. As I said, a homogeneous entity of the whole world, speaking the same language, speaking the same, eating the same type of food, maybe what is multinational corporations or we are advocating for, but what it will bring to us is, again, we are very careful about it, and that is how homogeneity, diversity is asked for. So I think in globalization will happen, but at the same time, ICH needs, or rather, communities have to work for preserving their own lifeways for certain reasons which are very, very inbuilt.
So,
How do you
there are two questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
May,
decide?
and,
may I ask?
Sangeeta also wants to ask you a question.
Yeah, which
No.
one do I take it?
My question is, there is no question actually. I just want to add something to Sukanya has given a very good presentation. And as I am working on the Thai group of Northeast India, so I'm audible. Can you hear me, Sukanya? Okay. So, as I'm working on the Thai groups of Northeast India, in the connection, I have done some research work on the Thai countries too. And I have seen as they migrated from the other part of that Patkai, that is from Shan state, and particularly their place is the Putao or the Khamtilong. These Khamtis are the only group of Thai people who have their kins accurately, those their ancestors now also they are staying in Burma. That means in Upper Burma, that is Putao and what do you say, Khamtilong. But other groups, those who migrated, they don't have they know that they came from there, but they don't have their uh, ancestors, or they don't have their immediate kins like the Assamese. So in this connection, I have seen regarding this Khamti revival movement, they are trying to gain their what you say, some of their characteristics, original dress, rituals, looking from that part. And they used to visit that Putao area and also the Khampilong and bring those dresses, that they become very much modernized nowadays.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a question for Dr. Jonali from, can you just see that question?
Uh, yes, how do you read the silent voices of history in the intangible of Northeast during your field visit? Yes. Thank you for very good question. Actually, I was working on Jhum cultivation, shifting cultivation among the Nagas, two Rengma groups, basically Rengmas and Angamis of Nagaland. And it was a micro study, village level study. And from the literature, I found that Ramakrishnan's work, the famous work, Shifting Cultivation and Sustainable Development, published in 1992, it is said that there are 100 different varieties of shifting cultivation in Northeast India. So there are varieties of Northeast India. So to understand the things intricately associated with shifting cultivation, I did micro studies. And then while doing my study, I always ask the question why it is done, how it is done. And I have seen that, especially while managing the crops, so much of crops, 59 varieties of crops within a small area, and most of the land is wasteland because it consists of unfertile area. Only few fertile area is found within that a small plot, which is about 2.1 hectare area for a household. So while putting the questions like that, so how it is managed? You are growing paddy, which requires fertile soil. You are growing maize, and there are. Then I found in due course I found that they have the local concept of soil fertility. Soil is divided into two groups, three groups: fertile soil, little fertile, and poor soil, like that. And accordingly they categorize the crop, and the people understand the basics of each and every crop. They know uh, the the nature of root, the growing pattern, the nature of foliage of each and every crop. So then I started documenting the knowledge system related to each and every step, because before my study I came to know that Zoom is not eco-friendly. It creates ecological imbalance, like that. But while going into deeper, I found that there are 20 different activities they perform, and each and every step there some kind of knowledge is associated with that. For example, that yes, fire is harmful to forestry, especially the spread of forest. So how they prevent it, how they are taking the measures. Again, while cutting the forest, because it is performed in the hill slopes, so there is always a question of soil erosion. So how they prevent that soil erosion, what is the knowledge system in behind. Then again I'm coming to the point of crop growing. One variety is of a spices crop. It's locally known as chu. I did not get the scientific name of that particular variety. And I found that that two varieties of crops is growing around the plot, surrounding the plot, and a very good smell is coming from that crop. Then while asked, the people are asked, they say that that's the crop, it makes away the devils. And there is, this is the area need to more analysis. So what is the scientific reasons? From my general knowledge, I thought that the smell, maybe because of the very good smell or particular kind of smell, it give away the insects away from harming the crops. And that may be the reason. And people thought that traditionally they believe that there are some kind of devils coming to the field. So if we grow the tube, then it will prevent. So that area is unknown to them, but they don't know they have that type of knowledge system. But this is the area, it needs more research work, whether actually it happens, it prevents insects, it works as an insecticide or not. So in the process of getting the information regarding shifting cultivation, that I came to know, I tapped the knowledge system behind each and every activities. So it is because of my deeper inquiry, and as because it is a micro study concentrating with a particular group of population, that's why it's coming out in that way, in that way. Is it okay, sir?
If there are no more, yeah. I think we don't have any more time. I'm sure there are far many questions than time. So I would like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Jonali Devi, Dr. Sangeeta Gogoi, and Dr. Sukanya Sharma for their time and lovely presentations. And I think this e-medium has made it also very accessible to meet everybody, which was not possible before. And it makes so much that you can actually gain. And I think I like to thank the Heritage Society for organizing this and making me part of something that was wonderful. So I shall bid you goodbye for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks to you. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. At the end of this session, let me
Bye.
convey my vote of thanks to everyone present here. My sincere thanks to Professor Seema Baawa, ma'am, for chairing the session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks to all the speakers for a very thoughtful and very thought-provoking, interesting presentations by everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta Gogoi, thank you, Professor Sukanya Sharma, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Jonali Devi, ma'am. Thanks to everyone present here. Thanks to all our viewers and our participants who are joining us through different social medias. Our next academic session, which is also the last academic session, will begin in an hour at 2 p.m. today, which will be followed up with a valedictory session and a cultural session at in the evening. There is also a cultural session will be hosted at 6 p.m. And Dr. Mallika Kandali and her group will present Satriya dance at the end of the day 2 of our conference. So thank you to everyone for joining us. I request all our viewers, participants, and everyone to stay live. We will be back in an hour with the next academic session.